Hello and welcome, and this is Crypto Day, that of Thursday, 10th of May, 2018, 8:32 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to talk about, well, this is a time to short, why it is the time to short, Bitcoin that is, why I'm not doing such, although I have been thinking about it, and yeah, let's get started within this video. Of course, everything within your own risk, own reward. I'm also going to go over, let's assume that I just started into cryptos today. But I want to go over an interesting scenario, because there are people, myself included, that do not want to trade fiat currency. And thus, buying, well, I'm going to have to buy with cash, and I do have to get out of it, I suppose. But let's just assume that you are buying cryptos. I actually bought cryptos from a gas station, if you can believe that or not, where I give them fiat currency, they print out a code, I put that code on the internet, and I get Bitcoin. It worked out that I ended up paying 7%, but I was very limited into what I would have to buy. Mainly, I'd have to buy like 50 bucks here, 100 bucks there, buy it a few times over, 20 bucks 3 times over, just that type of stuff. And I was able to, well, it was really expensive to buy, but because they say, okay, if you buy $20 3 times, we'll give you some free Bitcoin. And you paid a lot of rake, or well more than 10%. But with the free Bitcoin they gave me, I calculated, oh, it's going to cost me 6-7%. I'm like, yeah, I'd pay that. However, that's not the point. The point here is, what would I do if I was able to get Bitcoin without having to execute my bank account? One way is you know somebody and you're just going to make a purchase, or of course the example, an ATM machine, all of those sort of deals. Anyway, I'll do that second. First, why this is one of the mathematical times to go short and why I'm not. 400-minute time frame, and this is the only one I need to show. Okay, now, one of the eerie reasons is, oh, you're coming down to this key level of support. That's the cautionary point here. However, the rally that occurred on May 3rd, 9:20 timestamp, that got above the 9,500 level for the second time, was a statement. And I've talked about this before. This is Wall Street traditional. You make a nice move, you barely break it, but you noticeably break it, and then you have a fast move in the opposite direction. And this is what this is showing me. The correctionary time frame came from down to this previous low within this 18, and it had a decent red candle down, timestamp 20 hours, May the 6th. So now it has just broken down below this support, barely noticeable. This would be about the time when I would say, if you're waiting for a break below on the downside, which is this case, break above on the upside. Now, with that being said, that meant going long here at this top, because there was this established level of resistance. You could see how it was going sideways. This was a beautiful setup. But I have said on this channel many times before, and this I learned through the early days of trading about a decade ago, that I learned that buying these spots up here, this is what happened to me over and over and over again, where I'd buy this and then the fast move would happen to the downside. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm going to short here, then it would go down to 87 and flip back higher. That was my kind of quote-unquote luck, if you take it, because I was learning that even a lot of the setups that I had, even though I was a rookie and I was definitely nowhere near as good as I am today, they were pretty darn near good setups. I spent a good year learning, playing around, not really risking anything, learning how to trade before I actually made my first trade. And what I like about the crypto game is you can go in there and play places with like 50,000 Satoshi, or even cheaper in some spots, minimum buy size, or I can call that bets. Thus you can learn and really not risk too much. But I'm not going to get into that aspect either within this video. If you're interested in that aspect, let me know, because I can make a video on that. It's just, I need somebody to state that it's, well, I mean, it's only so many people would actually are in need for that information. That's a good way of putting it. So anyway, That's a failed situation, and you see the red candle breaking down below there. We spent some time within the 18 average, falling below this established level of support, timestamp 240, and then resisting more further within the 18 lows. And this last move came up to the 18 average of highs. And look at these 3 periods, how a total rejection has come into place. It is now barely broken below. Situations like this, when I see it, generally speaking, I'm expecting a decent sized leg lower. I wouldn't be surprised if it were to just happen now, maybe just do nothing for a little bit and just not get above 9,000 low change, 90.40ish or whatever. Definitely resist the 18 average of lows. But this previous level of support of 90.80, I would definitely be quote unquote rejecting, or if I was trying to get into a short position with the best price, that would probably be where I would get into the play. And when I talk about you wait for a play, that oftentimes it's going to be like this, where if you get in now, it could very easily roll over out to the upside. You lose a little bit on the short run. So it goes from 89 to say 9,040. So it goes up 130 or 140. And then it goes back lower. But the whole point is, you know, if you play at this point, you're able to handle it. You probably put a stop above this line. So your risk in a situation like this would be about $600, and then your reward is whatever you can get within it on whatever down move situations would come in. I would have to state that you want to probably take small profit at 6 and full profit at 3. That's what I would be doing. Now, why am I not doing this? Well, I was shorting the market, and I got back out after this move came up to 8,000. So I could technically, when you cover a short at 8,000, which was obviously a good time to do it with the further rise, and you see that it's time to go short again, and it's 900 basis points higher, or 1,000, or whatever number it was, somewhere in that area, definitely 12, 13, 14%, then you're doing things right, and you're quote unquote in a winning position. I could buy back exactly what the amount that I got rid of here, and it's a winning continuation trade. And it was a win before, even though I thought, you know what, every time I short, it seems as if I lose. Which is one reason why I'm not, and there's more towards it. And like I stated earlier on, my whole life it seems, if I really put an aggressive play into it, yeah, sometimes it works, but it just seems as if there's always that little snake bite situation that's always going to get me. The Philadelphia 76ers, there's one example there. Although I have cashed a big long shot before, I decided many months ago, February, that Philadelphia at about 40-1 odds was a good wager to win the Eastern Conference this year. They made it to the second round, and they got to like 3-1 odds, 3-4-1 odds maybe, to win it. I did not hedge. I thought about it against Boston when they were like Boston was 3-1 to open the series to win it. And I thought, you know what, let's put a small amount on that. If it loses and Philly continues, they play Toronto or Cleveland, I would put a decent sized wager there. I was planning on that regardless anyway, to hedge my bet. So be it. Anyway, that's a different story. I've had so many situations where if I put a big play in it, it loses. Komodo, big example. I put a big play into that earlier this year, and I've been able to trade it here and there, but it hasn't been a great play for me overall. So I try to be careful here and there. My overall system of buying silver every so often, that's part of a mechanism of why I would want to short as a protectionary phase, a hedge, why I use it to put gas in motor vehicles and the food on the table and so on, because it can be done. The biggest reason why I will not be able to short, where if this was available to me, I would probably be, there's a 97% chance I would have already done this by now and thus sell Bitcoin. And that's if I could have bought like the Tether or the TUSD fund, which I'm going to now bring up instead. TUSD, which is the one of the shorting codes. As you can see, it's doing the opposite, breaking out the level of resistance on a bullish situation. And see, I got out of the TSD down in here at about 12,000. That's when I got out of it. But anyway, I could get back in at 11.2. If I could put this in my Trezor wallet, I would buy it for sure. 100%, no doubt. Or Tether, if I could put that in my Trezor wallet, no doubt. And what I've wanted the whole time for over a year is like a Tether or a code like this in either gold and or silver. For if there's ever a reason where I would want to get out of cryptos or a time now, kind of as an example, that would be a situation where I could do it and then have them stored in a hardware wallet. Because right now, the only Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies I'd want to protect are the ones that I have stored in such. So I'm just going to play the game, hodl, I guess, as some people would say towards. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to finish this off by talking about what if, say, I wanted to invest into cryptocurrencies, but we look at this Bitcoin situation. It's in the, as I stated in my previous video, at a decision mode, huge one right now, where it's soon going to have a big move. It's going to go explosive, and it might take another month plus before it does it and just stay within this I don't know mode. It could be 2 months of this type of trying to figure out where it's going to go from here. This is the Coinbase one I want to go to say, yeah, this one here, the lines will look better. Because, yeah, if this thing makes a lower high, this support level, to say it's vulnerable would be an understatement, and it could very easily fall to 3. But as I've been saying as well, getting above this level, this thing could just be lights out and deja vu, major bull market of 2017 and even previous bull markets of Bitcoin past, where it just goes up explosive. So this is those two examples on such. And of course, you see it go down. You're going to hear Chris Dwayne saying, yep, I was right. And it's nothing. It's going to nothing. And of course, I'll say, well, we'll have another decision day moment at $3,000 Bitcoin, where I will again say it's a good time to be buying Bitcoin. At least I would guess towards such. But assuming I wanted to get into Bitcoin, and I meet up with someone and he says, hey, I got some Bitcoin I can sell you. But you're like, man, this thing could go lower. I want to get it cheaper. This is what I would do. Say I have a decent investment amount that I can be comfortable playing with. But I want to put a good amount in because I have, it's always a tough number. Investing way too small versus way too big. Within cryptos and the volatility, it does give you emphasis where you can lean towards more smaller than bigger because you could turn small amounts into large amounts easier. And that's for that very reason only. But actually, there's more other ones, but that's only one I'm going to go over. But however, when you say I got 20,000 I want to invest. Okay. 20,000 US. You go up to a friend, he's like, yeah, I got about 2.2 Bitcoin or whatever it is. I can sell you that. You give him a whole bunch of paper rectangles. Transaction is done. But you now got 2.2 BTC. But you wanted to think, I really didn't want to buy unless I see the Bitcoin prices going lower to like that 3,000 point. But I don't want to miss the run if it goes higher. And I also like a little bit of the dollar cost averaging. So one example might be is I'm going to take a portion of it, maybe half, 1.1, about 1. We'll say 1.1 Bitcoin. And then start to develop a portfolio as like the examples that I talk about. Get into a few altcoins. And then and some of it will be in Bitcoin, some of it will be in Litecoin and this and that and all those different things. Equate it to how you need to. I don't want to go over how your equation should be because that's not the fine details I want to get over. But that leaves you another 1.1 Bitcoin. What I want to do with that now is I want to buy like a TUSD or USDT. One of those two. And this is again where I wish that there would be a gold and silver one, especially one that you know is legit, that's backed by real such, yada yada yada. I've thought of ways over and over how it can be done. It's pretty much easy if you got the silver and gold to do it, and the big enough capital to start a decent company. It can be done. But throwing that part aside again, I would buy this. So now it's almost like having an order ready at Coinbase, if you will. So if I do the tether, I would buy 1.1 Bitcoin worth. So I would get about 10 grand. And then I would put a buy order at Bitcoin. Two of them maybe. I'd probably put one at around 6,000, but I could see why I would void that one. Just don't even worry about it. But then one at that 3,000 handle buy order. And then at that stage there, you would again have about 11,000. You would pick up about almost 3 Bitcoin. Not bad. And same thing on the TUSD. You would buy the TUSD, but it's priced differently, so you'd put a sell order in at about 33,000 Satoshi, which works out to the same thing. And again, you would get the same amount of Bitcoin. But it also means that you have to be alert for the opposite end. Meaning, if you see anything for the markets on a bullish level ready to go over, and as I've stated, breaking above these fields in here is, you can't say until it at least has a decent break above like 10,200. That's like the lowest level I can deem right now for it. Minimum. And I can go many levels higher because even around 11 to 12,000 is more of a getting above here. Like definitely 13,000 is the highest. 13,200, that would be the highest. You would see movements above that. But if you're buying Bitcoin at 11,000 or 12 or 13,000, when you originally got in here, you would have sold 1.1 and you would have get back in and get 0.9 or 0.8 or something like that. So it would actually end up costing you, but you would still be in the ball game, and it would work out in the exact same psychology as I have these dollars that I would normally put in a bank account. And I'd have it ready so that if something happens, Coinbase would have my Bitcoin ready for me if it came down to that certain price pivot point. So it works out to that exact same level, but in the example I was talking about, a bank would never have ever shown a single fiat currency transaction. And to me, I think that's very, very important for people who are especially trying to get out of the banking system. But with that being said, when you get out of the banking system and you got funds in there, you got to find ways of pulling them out. So yeah, the whole Bitcoin part is be in your own central bank. And when this whole thing comes into place, we got that the big situation, it gets out above. I like the chances it's going to go further, and the portfolio for me is going to do really well. If it goes down to 3,000, again, it's another decision day moment. I'm still confident it can do well from there, and my portfolio would as well, although I'm going to have to take losses short term along the way. As someone who's played poker, invested in, and gambled in sports many times, I'm used to bankrolls having fluctuating moments. So this is high volatile. It's nothing to me except for at these stakes it is different, but I'm going to be very confident that it would work out, but if not, that's again exactly why I profit take, and I realize, oh, it could go down to 3,000, maybe it's not support, maybe it goes to 3,000, up to 7, back down to 1,000. You know what? Always talk about the what if situations, always, because that's the way life really is. There's always going to be curveballs and different things that are going to get into life's path of everything you're trying to figure out. All right. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, again, so that's generally how I would get in. I put a little bit in now, and I realize in a situation like such, if it goes down significantly lower, it'd be a way of getting a better entry price by doing something like that. Whether you trust these kinds of funds, again, that's why I'd want to have a trustable fund that I could put in a hardware wallet. Because I thought I could play a small bit on it, but what's the whole point? I'm trying to make a whole bunch of other ones like XBY and so many other different codes in my normal crypto trading. So that'll work for just making those kinds of wages. And again, if I could protect it in my wallet like that, that would be so magnificent. I'd be so happy to find out if there would be a gold or silver fund that I could have in a Trezor wallet that I could be confidently holding at least as much as I am holding Bitcoin and Litecoin, and that it's actually backed by such. So if I can have, say, maybe it works out to, okay, I got 1,000 ounces of silver, as it would work out. I could take that 1,000 ounces and I would be able to redeem it for such and so on. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.